This is Vibrant Spaces, a show about placemaking, activating, and connecting city spaces for the communities you serve. Welcome to another episode of Vibrant Spaces. I am your host, Emily Craven, joined by my co-host, Tim Souza.
Hello, I'm Tim Souza.
Optional dance for those who are watching the YouTube video.
You got to get your energy in somehow, right? Here
right?
we go.
Exactly. Today's guest is Sherryl Muriente. She has to be one of the most effective placemaking minds working in a US city right now. She helps design the Trojan Horse model, which is an initiative that uses, joy to engage and co-create with the community to build this shared community vision in just a few months, from which they now check everything against. Right. And has really built that community trust in such a short amount of time. And we talk a lot about community engagement in cities, but Sherryl really shows what it looks like to build a placemaking infrastructure that truly shifts culture from within.
Indeed.
And yeah, I just love Sherryl to pieces. She's a visionary leader in urban design and placemaking. She focuses on human behavior through action research to transform public space. And so she is the first public realm director of the West Palm Beach Downtown Development Authority, and she creatively guides that downtown area with a blend of community engagement and urban planning expertise. And her projects really span from everything from revitalizing alleyways to orchestrating large-scale public art to being driven by those principles of local knowledge, of that kind of very precise urban acupuncture. You'll see that a lot of her projects are not like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping it sticks. It is very surgical precision, and her approach involves this very deep immersion in the local culture and this close collaboration, which really you'll see it fosters these stronger social ties and really encourages this stewardship of shared spaces that is not just owned by her and her team, but owned by a ton of community organizations in the community themselves. So Sherryl has degrees in architecture and urban planning. She combines this kind of academic insight with hands-on experience. And she's also the co-founder and creative director of Le Jobart, which is a art collective that's active in the US and France. And her global work in placemaking, it just shapes these vibrant, resilient communities and really just redefines the future of urban environments. And now I am done gushing about my favorite placemaking crush.
You can keep gushing. I definitely have a girl crush on her. Not gonna lie, it is. I don't know. She's so cool, and I think one of the things that I find so cool about the work that Sherryl has done, because as an individual, she's amazing, and as a legacy, she has helped reshift the way that West Palm Beach looks at placemaking. But the way in which she does it is almost plug and playable. I mean, it's so incredible that how replicatable it is that other cities can jump into this, take this model, even maybe potentially borrow her horses. Just reach out to her. And it's so cool how, if you are asking, how do I get my community buy-in for my plans, I think that this episode has the answer for you. Because we're going to dig into her work, how she uses pop-ups and temporary activations to generate that momentum, to build that capacity, and to create a feedback loop both between the residents and their government. So it's a consistent conversation, which is wild. And I think Sherryl's background in that architecture and that public art and the grassroots organizing that you kind of just touched on, Em, that really gives her that unique lens of city making, building a city using intelligence, creativity, and structure, as well as emotional intelligence. And so I think I'm so excited to even just jump into this conversation, because you deserve to fangirl all over Sherryl as much as you want, because she's amazing, and she's given all of us as listeners amazing tools as well. So without further ado, I want to just jump in straight into the meat of this call.
Perfect.
Hey, Sherryl, welcome. I am so excited to have you on today. It's both our prior conversations, Emily's fangirling of you over the last couple years that I've worked with her, and just my own deep dives into everything that you've done makes me very, very excited fanboying this conversation today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, I would like to just kick us off right out of the bat because we have so many things to talk about that are just going to be super meaty. So for our audience, please stay tuned. There's lots of cool stuff coming. Sherryl, to start us off, like what place or location is the most special to you in West Palm Beach? Why?
Wow. Okay. That's I mean, there's several, but I will choose one that's my favorite given the transformation of it. And also my favorite because I was behind the building of it. So there's this little pocket park called City Sand Garden in West Palm Beach. And back in 2015, developers were being required to add 1% of their construction budget to doing public art. And I was back then a lead artist with a group of artists, and we won that bid. So obviously, when we got the phone call, it's like, oh my God, we won, yay! But there's like, oh no, we have to build this. And it was the first time we were doing a big 11,000 square foot public park outside of Main Street, West Palm. So it was a big deal. It was like, it felt like nobody left. Clematis is our main street. So it was like, oh my God, we're going to go one block over. This is so huge. How dare you? How dare you, Main Street? And so there was this horrible building on that plot of land that just a lot of bad things were happening there. That got demolished. And it made room for a 300 room or 300 unit apartment building, which is amazing with new amenities and all that. And so our park, the whole point was like, how do we make a place where you can perform arts? As an artist, I like performing arts. And so we made a amphitheater, small amphitheater, like 70 people can sit there. We put these boxes of wood in there as well to like create these outdoor living rooms. And then there's a bamboo area. And within it, thankfully, I was working with my husband, Beju, and we put his sculptures, Dudali's in there. So it's these stick figure men that show humanity through body language. And so the whole point was like, this is a parenthesis of fresh of breath air that you have in this plaza outside of Main Street. And to this day, it's now surrounded by a lot of other buildings. So it's not alone anymore. And we use it all the time to program it. So that was the other like first time we were actually programming like public private plazas. You know, they're privately owned, but they're publicly used. And so seeing that transformation of that space, I mean, super special. I walk past it to work today, you know, all the time. And I still like, now I look at it, I'm like, it looks like somebody else built it. Like, I can't believe I drew and then that became a thing. And so it's kind of a fun thing to see how people just like appropriate it their way and they have their own point of view about it. So yeah, I feel like that was that's one of my favorite places in town.
I mean, I can see why you built the thing, gave it to the community and said life, you know, and now you've got, how long ago was that again? I'm so sorry.
So we designed it in 2015, but it doesn't get built until 2018. So it opened pre-COVID. And then post-COVID is when it started getting like very like overutilized with all sorts of programs that get run there.
That, you know, that kind of brings and leads me to my next question is what has been your biggest change that you've seen since, you know, making that West Palm Beach home and then building obviously infrastructure for the city and then going through COVID, landing now? What's been the difference of like when you started in West Palm Beach versus now?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, in 2013, when we first did our I say the first initiative we ever did, I came in as a community activist and a teacher. I was teaching placemaking at a local university. And we decided to take this alleyway that was disgusting, had really bad news attached to it, like somebody had been murdered there. So people did not dare walk through it. Very, very not fun. And we did in 4 months, we studied this thing, cleaned it up, and made our first demonstration for 10 hours. Like, what if this was taken back as a pedestrian walkway? And so back then we were fighting this 2013 to around 2016, we're really fighting like horrible stories and things that were just like, why is this city not working? And when COVID hit, it felt like everybody had to stop and people
The
came
machine turned off.
outside. And it's like the whole, it's like, what is that movie called? Like when the earth stops or something like
Or stood still.
when
Is
the
that
earth stood still. It's like literally that's what happens. So everybody's like, oh my God, I gotta go outside my office or house. And so typically in Florida, in this
Mhm.
area of West Palm Beach, people would not be outside. It's too hot or it's disgusting or it's sweating and that. So when COVID hit, it forced people outside. And now we were seeing like our waterfront full of people on the walkway, everyone, every freaking plaza, courtyard, you name it. It was full pack of people outside. And something lingered from that. And so that really shifted our public realm in a way that I never thought I could imagine that. Like, from where we started, where it's like, can't walk these streets because I'm afraid and they're empty, to now it's like everybody's everywhere. And so it's been a big shift.
I think that has made a lot of people listening to this podcast excited. There's a lot of downtowns that are really struggling with that. I know that here in Canada, we have a lot of our downtowns that are really struggling on like a level with like homelessness, and their downtowns that have felt really kind of down, stagnant. People don't feel safe, and so how do you change that narrative? And placemaking is a really large part of that. And Tim's right. I am so excited to have you here, Sherryl. Long-time listeners of the pod have heard me talk about Sherryl and her project multiple times. So I'm so excited to be able to actually have Sherryl talk to the project today, because you have a lot of innovative models. And I think that we've already decided this is going to be a two-parter, everyone. Two-parter episode. There's so much that Sherryl has been doing in West Palm Beach that is innovative, but one of the super innovative models that you've heard me talking about, and we get to hear straight from the source, is specifically how you have engaged the community in a really unusual way to direct your programming into the future. And so can you tell us the story of the Trojan Horse in West Palm Beach and what made it so impactful?
Absolutely. Oh, I mean, Trojan rocking horses, that is like a dream come true for me, actually. So we were looking right when, I would say it's like 2020, 2021. I wrote a grant to get some Knight Foundation money to figure out how can we do the next big thing in placemaking. And so we knew placemaking was working. We have been using these methods for a long time now. And we also were gathering data with, actually during COVID, we're gathering data with Gell architects, doing public life studies during the pandemic. And so one of the things we felt is like, we need to, now that we can open up, I think it was probably like, 2020 to 2021, how can we engage the community in a very interactive way through the biggest placemaking project we'll ever do? Like that was the point of view right then. So we wrote this RFP out to see, what anybody internationally could come up with. And it was an interesting, there's a lot of interesting projects that came through. Some of them are still like in our library of things to do in the future, actually. So it's almost like nobody really lost the RFP. We just haven't done it yet.
But not the one big placemaking thing that you will ever do. It's the start of many things. It's making things that you'll do.
Absolutely.
Basically, placemaking Disneyland has more than one roller coaster, is what you're saying.
Because they were so good, all of them. And I was like, oh, we can't fund all of it. This, I wish, but we can't. And so we chose, we had a selection committee that chose architect Marco Casagrande from Finland, who had pitched this idea of the Trojan rocking horse. What's interesting is like he had the idea, but now he's in Finland. We have to figure out how do we build it in Florida. And so my purpose of not just putting this RFP out and getting somebody that creative to come into town and do this project with us is that I have to do the logistics and the community engagement part of his project. And so Trojan Rocking Horse was born. We did some site visits to different communities in the area that I have been building relationships with for a long time. But it was truly the first project we were able to, as a downtown development authority, go outside of our district and collect ideas and engage basically all the neighborhoods that are surrounding us that come in and out to our downtown every day. And so we hit the north neighborhoods, the southern neighborhoods, everybody out west and central. And what was interesting is there were 200 children that participated in the original design of the horses. Then Marco went back to the drawing board with all that collective information and created the 8 original Trojan rocking horses. And once they were designed, we got local welders and a master welder from Finland to oversee the project and source
Big
the
were these
material
horses?
locally. Yeah.
How big were they?
Oh, they're like, I want to say they're like 6-7 feet tall, and they go from 5 to 10 feet long and 2 feet wide, and they're on wheels. And so it's like these
Wow.
children collages that were like 2 by 2 became like a professionally made large scale horse, like human scale horse. And
That
they're all
reminds me of
quirky, like yeah, they're made out of stainless steel and they're all shaped like one might look like a moose or a llama or so they have little nicknames by the way. Um
I
but
love
yeah,
that. That's like those dads who take those images of their kids and they're like, we're gonna turn it into a 3D figure, and like
that's
people are doing it today.
exactly yeah, that's
That's what you did.
exactly what happened.
Yeah. So freaking cool.
I mean, one of them is a unicorn. So, it's still a horse. It's but what was really cool is the intent was to collect dreams inside of them. So they all had like a little slot for you to put this postcard in and a little door every door is different. Like one door is shaped as a heart because that was the design that was on the collage of the kids. Others were like very quirky doors. I mean, they're all very different. They all have such personalities. But we ended up collecting almost like 2,000 dreams in a matter of 5 days, which is, God, I hate to say this, but that's more than the people that participate in our local elections. So that is a
Wow.
free range number.
Right. Yeah. And we should be clear to the listeners who don't know about this project. These horses were actually paraded through the city.
Yes. Yeah.
How did
Yeah,
you pick a route for that?
Oh, yeah.
And then what did it look like as they did that?
So, it's one of those things like when you start a project like this, like there's this, I call it like the community rumor begins. So somebody heard about them, especially when the kids are doing it, then the parents hear about it. Then the parents talk to another parent in the school, like, do you know about this? Like, what is this thing? And so it's like a rumor mill that keeps growing. And we started with, the 8 schools that were helping out. And by the time we started, like we were finished building them, we had over 63 community partners participating to walk them in a matter of 3 months. So that's your power of like expansion through the rumor. And it's very fascinating because then it's like everybody has FOMO. They want to be part of it. Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you come and do the workshop at my place? At the beginning, it's difficult to get locations, but once a few hit, then it changes the tide. And so all those people walked it through and took care of those horses for like the 5 days that they were
They'd like walk it for a couple of
Yeah.
hours. They'd pass it off to the next organization who would continue. Nice.
literally, yes, 8 of
How
them.
how far was that? Like how much geographical space was covered, neighborhood or community wise?
Pretty far. I mean, we went out west, what is equivalent of a 20-30 minute drive.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
there was actually an area where the airport is that we had to put that horse on a truck to just get him across that like little highway area so he could hit the next neighborhood past the airport.
That's cute.
But other than that, it was just going through neighborhoods. And because it's so slow, it's 5 days. But we're talking easily, square miles. It's hard because we have water on the east and then land over here. So it's not a perfect circle uh, from the center. But yeah,
Incredible.
give or take, it's 20-minute drive outside of the city coming
Yeah.
in.
In West Palm Beach, is that including traffic or just by itself?
Just regular driving. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair. Gotta ask. So that's great. So then the curiosity then comes in. Why frame an engagement project like this in a playful mythical structure? Why not just do like voting boxes on street corners like a mailbox?
That's boring. Like that we can do all day. No, this is about like, again, what's the next big thing and using our imagination. And it's so important. If you want to trigger imaginative answers, you need to have an imaginative project. If I were to put mailbox house out there, I'm just gonna get letters that are like, I want this, I don't like that. So this is a way of like, first of all, children were the designers at the end of the day. So you can't really go after a children's project. That's one of the strategies, to be very honest. Because community engagement can get very, very difficult and very ugly.
Mhm.
And I think using whimsy and mythical aspects or play is so important for us to also, as adults, remember that we can be creative again, like children, and not take it so seriously. And so I think that did affect using a tool like that does affect the answers you get because we did get a lot of creative things that we never even thought about. So
I mean, like people are tired of forms and they're tired of surveys and as you say, that provokes complaints. But what you wanted from people was ideas,
yes.
right? That's what you wanted. You didn't want complaints. You didn't want them in a negative mode. You wanted them in a positive mode. And so, like, what went into crafting that question? Because specifically, you asked them for their dreams of the city, correct?
Yeah, it's what is your dream for downtown West Palm Beach? That's it. That's all the postcard said, and it was blank on the other side. And so it's supposed to trigger like if there's no limit, right? Dreaming, you can dream anything. So we really wanted to talk about the future. And so that's one way to ask that. But if I go ahead and like make it the traditional ways, like what do you envision as the future of West Palm Beach? You will enter a lot of thinking about the now. Like, well, to get there, I have to do this now. When you ask something so open, and then you're also getting answers from children and adults and teenagers, everyone. So it also helps seeing like the point of view of all these age groups.
It's interesting because what you're really trying to do is peel back our industrial smart goal training, right? And being like, hey, people, dreaming is okay, and we're gonna move forward. I think that's wonderful, and it really is very thematic in all of it. So I guess the question I have as we start to talk about, how you built this is, do you, as objectively, was the investment worth it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, this was, we put $100,000 initially to a project after building things out, marketing, all the things that add on. I think it was like $135,000 project. And it was done in a matter of 5 to 6 months of completion. So very fast turnaround to get results, from A to Z. And then from there, so much came. Like once we start looking at the answers, the analysis gave us a whole incredible, I guess, roster of things to do for the future.
Because essentially the Trojan horses, they went through the city, they collected like those 2,000 dreams. As you said, those dreams range from kid talking about wanting to be in Paw Patrol to people, adults and very multi-generational. And they delivered those dreams to City Hall, which is I feel very strategic on your part. It's involving the city as part of as that is part of that. How? Because it's a very big thing to say to a city and a downtown, or let's put $100,000 into this very whimsical project where we deliver dreams to City Hall. Like,
How do people trust that?
another city who wanted to try and build that kind of yes ecosystem to result in that beautiful photo up at the end. Like, how did you go about?
Yeah. So the DDA put the core funding through the Downtown Development Authority is where we got some grant money as well to help narrow that gap. But as we were doing the process of the RFP, that's a very public process. And so presentations were done by the top 3 winners. Then the selection committee narrows it down to the one. Then we bring that person in. We, decide how we're going to do the project, who has what responsibilities, because it truly is a collaborative type of project. I know that RFPs tend to be very like, here's the contract, the expert vendor does it, we pay them and it's done. In this case, the contract was written differently. It was actually written where it's like, here are the responsibilities of the vendor, where we're asking them that even on the design level, they had to use a placemaking process to do the design. That's why the kids did the their collages and things like that. And so because that requirement was in place, we had our portion of the agreement that says us at the DDA are also doing these aspects of the project. And that gets presented at City Hall at commission, which when we were ready to trek, we brought in the unicorn into the commission meeting so they could see what was coming and explain what's happening. And they were very shocked during that meeting. They were very like, okay, I'm not sure what's happening, but sure, let's try this out. This is interesting. Because I think when you do things out in the open and it's not a mystery, it helps. It helps a lot to get everybody involved. And obviously, seeing that there's 200 kids designs behind this, it's like, how can you say no to children? So children are powerful, by the way, in case anybody needs that for their own city. And I think that's a way to do a combination of the DDA, the philanthropic group, the outside, let's say, expert, and the community.
And how did you convince people that it was not a nice to have? Because I think, because we'll get into a little bit, everyone, about the analysis and what's come out of that and how that has informed programming, and like the horses going through the city was not the end of the project. Like, there is a whole other second half to this project that we'll talk about. But like, how did you convince people that this was not a nice to have? Like, you must have built up a bunch of trust across the years that you were a public realm director.
Yeah, this is not overnight. I think that's why we could do that. What's the next big thing? Because we've been hammering placemaking to all the different departments and communities since like 2013 or 2012, I think is when we began like our guerrilla marketing strategy. I don't know what to call it, but it's like, here's parklet, here are the parking day, here's parklets, here's so many things, and when I started, I didn't work for the DDA. I was really from the outside contracted to do this. And then when I came in-house, what was interesting, this is in 2017, I come in-house to the DDA after contracting with them for several years. What was interesting to me about that is like from the inside, I had this new structures and budgets that I didn't have from the outside. And so we were able to build a department with a work plan we've actually done 2 of them already, 2 5-year work plans since then, that really strategize how to build this into the reality of doing a city. And so I think, yes, at the beginning, there are a lot of like, why are we doing this? We can't even call it that. Like the work plan had community engagement, physical improvements, and special projects. Those were the 3 titles I could use publicly. No
Wow.
placemaking said anywhere. Obviously, when I'm talking out loud, then yes, but not written form. And fast forward, and now we have public realm plan and the public realm, like we're talking about words that we couldn't even use back then. Placemaking is everywhere. Everybody now uses the word. At least in our city, it's like the developers are using it, the community, and the art, and art in public places. Like everybody is a placemaker today. And so, which is a good thing in a way. It's like now it's popularized and it's no longer a bad word. But it takes years, and you got to find community champions to work with you alongside.
Well, and I think that that's the thing that I've learned in our conversations together is that that's a 13-year journey, right? So
Yes.
like if we're looking at cities and audiences who are like wanting to do this, I think there were 2 key pieces that you just mentioned. And that's that, like, yeah, it took 13 years to get here. And you've been able to, probably alongside other placemakers in your city, build a cultural shift that is unique to West Palm Beach. And you say it's probably just us. I have to tell you, it is really kind of just you. It's really cool. I mean, there are some other people who are doing placemaking around the country. They're doing it in different ways, but the changing of the cultural base of the city and the city departments and people expecting it to change that language, I think it really speaks to the work you put in over a decade and over the last decade and a bit. And the other piece is that I think it's fascinating that you touched on it, that you started outside the walls, kind of as like a little revolutionary individual who's like, no, we need to change our community, change our culture. And then you stepped in, right? When you got behind the barrier, you're no longer like protesting and screaming from the outside saying, hey, this thing needs to be fixed. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, great. Someone took the risk and said, we need to give her the reins. And then now 13 years later, you can roll unicorns into city council and like,
And
no
it's
one
okay.
blinks. Right. So I think that really speaks to the journey you've been on without, talking about every nitty-gritty detail that you've done over those 13 years. It really is a journey. And I think that that's something that you obviously very much embrace, and that I think I want to highlight for our listeners, because this doesn't happen overnight, right? This takes time to change, especially cultural change that you've driven, which is super cool. So with that, I kind of want to transition into this cultural change. How in this process did you get the community buy-in and the cross city department buy-in? Because that is something that's incredibly unique to West Palm Beach. Other cities that we've talked to they struggle getting departments to communicate, much less neighborhoods and communities who don't identify with each other to communicate. How can you talk to us about that process? What does
Yeah,
that look like?
absolutely. The first step is you have to choose. Well, there's several ways. It depends on the city, obviously. There's cities that if there's a lot of resistance, I would say you start with low-hanging fruit type project, and you build it out with a vulnerable type of community champion. And what I mean by that is that you either choose a group that's underrepresented, or you choose children, or you choose the elder, but something that people cannot really fight against, because that is what we're trying to make better, like that equity of bringing those who are not heard or not participating up. And so that's kind of like your first alliance would be, I would say, or suggest, is that. The other thing to think through is if it's like things are well and running and it's just about like changing physical aspects of things, then it's about doing the project that one-to-one scale as a demonstration. And even if you're going to get your hands slapped, that's okay. Just do it and show it and document it, and then bring it into City Hall, because they will listen at that point. And there's ways of doing that with or without permission, to be very honest. And so it's a way of like demonstrating before planning. And then you can plan it all out afterwards because you've done that catalytical point. It's like, I call it urban acupuncture. It's like this point in time that you throw the dart into the earth, and then it's like a catalyst to then churn new things that are going to happen afterwards. But you're right about the process. So the starting point is sometimes you're going to miss the point and you got to keep trying until it hits. But when you hit that level, you'll know, because it will bring people out that are completely against you, which is a good thing. You're provoking change. And you're also at the same time going to have people behind you walking with you saying, we need to do this together. And so that's that, when you hit that like peak, that's when you know, like, okay, now we can like go into the let's start strategizing and doing placemaking continuously, and not one thing.
Yeah. So curiosity that comes out of that is you just spoke to resiliency, and the hand slapping piece is interesting. I think that is probably what trips up people from becoming the Sheryls as a personal, like, deep personal motif. How do you structure your own internal environment to be able to even address these like this resistance as you're trying to bring positive change to the community, but people are just resistant to change?
I have something I can't say on camera, but it's my motive slide. But it goes like blank it. And then you just like, oh, I'm gonna go, and just the thing is there, you just go after it. But in a more subtle way, I would say, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to believe in you. There's going to be people that are going to get jealous. There's going to be people that are going to write bad things about you. I got hate mail over the first alleyway project from a building manager who like gave me an F, for what I did or something. And so there's all these things. I had a social media campaign against one project from a millionaire. I mean, there's all these crazy things that have happened. And I am a very stoic person. And what I mean by that is like, when that, instead of getting that fear of like, oh, they're coming to attack me, it's not personal, because I have been building this with others. So I'm not the expert, actually. The whole community is the expert. I'm more of like the translator and the cheerleader and the person that's bringing all of these different community things to juggle them out in the public for it to take light. And so I see it as like, because we're a collective, they're not coming just after me personally. I'm going to feel bad about it. And that kind of keeps my head high in a way, like, okay, as long as there's people standing next to me and it's not something that I personally wanted to do, that's what keeps me in check, that we're going in the right direction. None of the projects have ever been like, Sherryl Muriente wanted to do this thing because I was thinking about it. I'm listening to what the community is saying, that I'm like, okay, I keep hearing this like recurring story that's being brought up. Like the alleyway was one. There were so many people talking about this alleyway because of the horrific thing that happened there. And it's like, how do we redefine it so that we take power and control over the alleyways again, and not have them be a scary place? So that's
really,
like where the projects come from, is from the others.
So really, it's like the true power of advocacy is what you're leaning into there. Is you're saying, I'm leaning into just being an advocate for this movement, for these needs of the community.
Yes.
And that's where your power comes from.
And I think it's a case of everybody, you're making sure that everybody wins, right? Like, so you have, and you don't have to win over everyone, right? You can have the one planner, the two artists, the one engineer, the, X number of counselors who see what you're doing and understand how it helps them win at the thing that they are doing. And so like you kind of curate those champions in departments, because you don't have to convince everyone, but if you convince the right people, right, and you build relationships with them, as you say, and you help build up their win. I know that you also do that in the community. Like you look for and you discover community champions. Like, what is the persona of a community champion? Like, what are you looking for to get communities on board? That you had 63 different organizations walk a metal horse through the city?
So, that it's with time it's become easier. At the beginning, I wasn't sure what I was looking for. But I discovered that there was a project I did a long time along in Italy that taught me a lot about finding these people, because I couldn't find people in Italy through their language. I know very limited Italian, but I could find them through their body language. And so what was interesting is when people are telling you or answering questions about a place, um, they'll they'll get very loud and excited about something they like, but also collectively they can get very loud and excited about something they want to change or don't like. And it's very I want to say those who are the most vocal, even if it's on the negative side, they can become community champions because they care. So yeah, you can see through their body language that they care, especially those who are been like adamant about anything, any kind of you know, it doesn't matter what the discussion is, if they're angry or not, like when they are not um, participating, that's the worst, because that means there's apathy in the community. So you have to take another step to get people engaged. But once people are engaged, be it positive or negative, it's like that they are championing a cause. They are in charge of a theme of something they care about. So I've heard like at the beginning when we were doing these things, there were a lot of people in the community that were elders in West Palm that were like anti-development. They want things to stay the same. And so they would come out and be like, "What are you guys doing? I don't get it. You should be putting money elsewhere or whatever." And so if they're just showing up and coming out, this is already a win for me. And I start investigating like why. What is it that matters to you? And then you can really identify them through, again, being enthusiastic about something, no matter what that thing is, and showing up. And so once you start developing relationships with those that are maybe against something, because I have relationships with people that don't think like me, we don't think equally, but we still talk to each other and we still have coffee and it's fun to debate. So like that's where you
Right,
have to get
right.
to into those conversations of like, let's debate this over coffee and not just like write a nasty letter to each other or whatever it is. Um,
Right, you're bringing humanity back into that experience, which is wonderful. Look at me in the eyes.
yeah,
Let's have a chat.
yeah,
Yeah.
I I think the way that you engage the community and the way that you engage vendors is very unique, because, as you said, a lot of cities will have a vendor come in, do a thing, and leave, right? But every community is different. Anyone who has listened to this podcast for any amount of time understands that every single one of the cities that we spoke to is different. And so I think that acknowledgement that, yes, you need outside people to bring outside ideas that shake things up. But at the same time, you also want to make sure that they are engaging the community in the thing that they have pitched, because otherwise it can be created in a vacuum. And a lot of artists will do this, particularly public art and those kind of things. They will do things in a vacuum and they will put it in there. And then there's this big uproar that someone spent $200,000. I'm quoting Calgary here. They have like this big blue circle on a highway and it costs like $200,000 and people were pissed about it. Right. And so a lot of things are created in a vacuum. And I think that that's one unique thing that you guys really do, is that, like, yes, you want to bring the outside vendor in. That's the point of the RFP, but you want to make sure that they properly engage people and the community sees that you are properly engaging them, and it moves on from there. And I think that that's a wonderful balance. And yes, it's a little bit messy. And yes, things take 6 months rather than 2 months. But the output that you get at the other end is a much more highly invested community and a much more highly invested project as a result.
yeah, absolutely. And you just made me remember, like, even for recurring programming, we never like pay a vendor that's an expert at not an expert, but let's say like we're doing silent disco, and there was a community local person that I think her company was doing like clam restoration in the waterfront, but she's really into music and was practicing to become a DJ and wanted to run a silent disco gig on the side. And we're like, we need more mindfulness project, like and outdoor dancing things. So let's come together and test you out. And so we test a lot of our local vendors, is I guess I would call them vendors, but they're really community people that want to try to do a task within our program. And then they get paid a stipend for it. And some have become a company of some sort. Others have, fizzled out because they're like, yeah, I liked it, but I want to do something else. And so every musician, every instructor, anybody that does the placemaking programs with us is either living in the area, downtown or in the vicinity of downtown, and is just testing out an idea with us. And so that also builds like this small army of community that's like, we believe in this together. We have about 10 programs a year that are recurring, and each one has, everything from 1 to 5 different personalities in it that are just community members that are being paid to do the task.
They do this thing. I love that. And I think that what's fascinating as I hear you talk about this is that I'm going to give you a new title. Yeah, you're now a placemaking scientist. We might discuss that word placemaking in a bit, but like placemaking scientist, because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, we're willing to take a chance on you. We'll test your hypothesis. And based on the results, we will like either continue or we won't continue, or we'll iterate in this way. And I think that is also reflected in how you've like leveraged all of the data and the follow-up from this Trojan Horse programming, right? You've taken your scientist, Sherryl, brain and you've applied it to like what, you're leveraging modern tech tools in a way that most cities aren't. You're testing and you're iterating. I really am curious out of that conversation we've had in the past. Talk to us about how you're using AI to like synthesize these voices, to present these things, and everything else you're doing with it. I want to sit at your feet and learn. So please.
Can I just pop in a little compliment here that I met Sherryl in Chicago back in 2020?
Somewhere around
I want to say she was the first person in the city that I heard using AI for a placemaking project. So you were ahead of the curve. And so like taking your 2000 dreams, like how you meant to synthesize 2000 of anything, right? And so this is very fascinating.
Yeah, and this is like early Chat GPT days, because it's not what it is today at all. First we had a hybrid. We still had to like human power input in an Excel sheet, like all the entries, which was took about a week, and about 6 of us just typing away at computer, like, and then double checking that we didn't miss something.
Did you guys measure how much coffee you consumed over that week to get that all dialed in?
Who knows? Who knows? What's interesting though, when you're doing it together as a group with music in the background, the time was flying and it was fun. Like it didn't feel, I don't know. There's something about like, I work with my workers that way, kind of like, let's make this fun, because it's so horrendous task. Like you're just typing in scribbles, and some of the things were handwritten, and you're like, what do you think this word means that? So we double checked all that. We scanned every dream through that photocopier machine, just to digitalize it anyway, regardless, so that if anything got lost, we have a digital copy. And so back then, ChatGPT was still like, you couldn't dump a document in there. So we would have to like copy paste pieces of it. And because we knew we had put Apple trackers on all the horses, so we knew where they went from point A to point B every day in the map. And so it did help like understand like these dreams came from the north route. These dreams came from the west route, or whatever, right? So there were 8 routes, 8 groupings. And within the groupings, we had a per day, because we would, at the end of the night, grab all the dreams. I see hearts, wrap them in a rubber band. It's like day one, route, whatever. And that goes to the office. And so like, that's how we were able to understand what was being collected from where. So that helped a lot in synchronizing information, but also we would put these, copy paste things into AI after I had written out kind of like a hypothesis in terms of like, how could we categorize this, right? So there were like inspirational dreams, dreams that have to do with physical space, dreams that have to do with, uh, I think it was feelings, so we had like keywords because as we're writing, I kept seeing patterns. But that's something that is in my mind. Like I can see like I keep hearing words within the writing that are repeating themselves. And so I came up with a top 8 words of things that were kind of like reflected. When I took it through AI, I asked it to tell me, what were the top 10 most frequented themes within this grouping of phrases, for example. And then it would spit out its own point of view, like, oh, environmental factors, better schools, housing issues, or whatever it was. And then I kept fine tuning it against the words I thought, like kind of like asking if my hypothesis was worth it or not. And so that's really what helped me analyze 2000 dreams without a whole crew of social, like experimental scientists with me, because that was not an easy task. It's people could write anything. And so I just asked it some key questions to come up with new categories. And from it, I could tell where, as an example, and this is so, we had a horse, the Esperanza horse, which went through the Latin communities where there's a lot of undocumented people. And you could tell through the writing of the children, like, I wish that my mom wouldn't have to work 3 jobs a day, or I don't want anybody to take us away. Like these are heartbreaking dreams of fear and wanting safety. And so for us, as we're analyzing like that route, I'll never forget like AI saying, safe, safe and sound public spaces, better opportunities for jobs, like that's coming from that area versus like out where there's like, schools that are just, people have more money and they're doing better and their dreams are about like ice cream for free for everyone, like fun, happy princess things,
Mhm.
and that's great too. But it really starts telling you in the map what things need to be addressed too. What are some priorities that you have to address with the community? And so AI was unbelievable. I mean, today I've been playing with it since then, and I've been learning a lot about it. And I even have like, I've created a prompt that makes it a prompt expert on the subject matter. And
Mhm.
so I'm telling AI, like, you as the prompt expert, rewrite my prompt and then ask me questions to make this better. And so it's coming up with some really incredible analysis based on the analysis I already do as a human being. I mean, as a person, but I have my flaws. I'm not a computer.
Well, I mean, it has its flaws too, right?
Yeah.
We're,
Oh
we're
yeah,
both learning and growing. It's like a child in a lot of ways. And I
it
think
is.
that it's brilliant. I want to first take a moment and note that it's not lost on me that the horse that you sent through that neighborhood, it was called Hope in
Yeah.
Spanish, Esperanza, right? I think that very much ties directly into everything you're talking about framing dreams, framing, naming things, and the fact that you sent Esperanza through that community specifically is, I want to just compliment you and your team's understanding in that space. And the second, going back to AI, I think that it's fascinating, and putting those prompts in and asking it to become a better expert for you based off of what you've learned. Highly recommend anybody who's listening to this podcast, ask the thing to build the prompts for it to learn from, because it's only going to refine and get better And it thinks differently than we do. So like putting things in the structure that it thinks in is typically going to be more helpful. Just like you are as a translator, you're translating now into AI, and I think that is absolutely.
But I think the thing that a lot of people fear about AI is that like, they're like, oh, if I go down the AI train, it's all AI all the time. But I think that what is really beautiful about this project is that you did the AI analysis and then you brought it back out to the community in a lab. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that, how you brought community members in to take those 8 different or 10 different things that the AI
Yeah.
kind of spat out as being main dreams of the community? Like how you then took that AI and that analysis and you took it back into the human realm.
Yes, so I have this thing called the Human Intelligence Center in my mind. Like, so there's like the artificial intelligence and then there's a human intelligence. So I do believe in human intelligence because this is not the first time we're using technology and fixing it. Like even with there was a project going on in downtown with sensors to count people and bikes. And we count people and bikes by hand, the old school way, like 10 seconds, with a clicker. And at some point we got into a fancy way of doing it with an app, with the help of Gel. And I remember we were sending our human intelligence data to the sensors people so they could calibrate their sensors. And so this is kind of that same feeling of like AI gave me like the top 8 themes. And then we did a dream machine workshop right after Chicago, by the way. It was like literally the conference ended and we were coming home to like put out these 8 stations, which were thematic by the top 10 themes. So the number 1 theme was environment. So there was an environment station to do like seed bombs and talk about native plants and things that and we had a map to show like where should we locate more environmental thing, like more green into the city. And so that was like station 1. Station 2, there was a cookbook, a community cookbook being made. And so it's coming out of all the dreams about food and culture. And so we started collecting recipes and asking people questions like, what is your background of this recipe? And why is it the most important recipe to you? And so those stories start telling us a lot of information that is very nuanced to who we are and our identity. And so each dream station collected identity of the community. And from there, another analysis has been done. But the point was that AI gave us these 8 themes, and it was like, let's test them out. Let's test these dreams out with getting a little deeper into that theme and fine tune it even more. Like, what if this, what if that? So, I mean, there were so many things going on. And the one that was really interesting was because there was, we called it the dream well, the making of the dream machine. It wasn't necessarily part of those 8 themes, but we brought a lot of cardboard and high school kids to help children decide how the city should be redesigned. And they just had cardboard to do their own thing in public space. And so we had this like 3-dimensional collage of boxes and things happening during that event. That what was interesting is like, yes, it's cool that they're making the thing, but it's what they're saying that's important. And so some of the boxes were like completely rainbow colored and saying, we love everyone. Like that's what was important to them, that there's a space in the city that's for all. And regardless of your orientation. And then there was another box that had another message through it, like be kind and this and the other. And so the children were really building the city based on feelings and things that they want, instead of just physical, structural, like an architect doing a plan or urban planning doing a plan. So it gave us a lot of insight. And we are obviously
multi-generational too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It was like everyone from every age group was there. No, it was very interesting. And that's still ongoing. That's still a project that's in the works.
That is fascinating because it reminds me of part of my education was learning from a number of Indigenous groups. And one of the practices that I got to participate in consistently was a circle ceremony, right? And as we were being educated at the beginning of the circle ceremony, if you don't know what it is, please look it up. They gave us a bunch of blocks, and they said, we're not even going to begin with this group of people until everyone in the group can agree on the arrangement of the blocks in the middle. And so we're going to pass the talking piece, but no one's going to speak. That's just your turn to get up and move the blocks. And that was the people in the room were as diverse as the planet. And so it was the most fascinating experience to kick off community conversations that I've ever received. And it's fun to hear that you have taken that and given it a practical level and put it in a public sphere and not just put it behind like an educational barrier. Brilliantly done. And it's fun to me because that is so very human. You took the most core human attribute of collectively building something, and then you just took that information. Did you take that and then put it back into an AI when you were done, like all of those pieces to synthesize again? And is that part of that conversation, or did you guys take that and do human intelligence?
As like, what did you learn from, like, what has moved on, like, what has come out of this trope? Like, how does it continue to live in the things that you do?
Mm-hmm. So I think, well, there's a list of dreams that we're thinking, like, little by little we chip away at them, like, make this one real, because we can. There was one that was like coffee for everyone, or connecting through coffee or something like that. And funny enough, somebody in the office came up with this idea of doing a coffee festival on City Hall. And so that already happened, and it's kind of like there's been themes that have trickled through, some by accident and some intentionally.
Did that one pass the lab test to be repeated, or was it something that was like a fun once try and you'll maybe reapproach it again in the future at a later date?
So once it happened, everybody was like, can you do these every month? And we're like, we can't, it's impossible, but we're going to bring it back, and they want different themes. So they want like coffee fest, burger fest, pizza fest, like the different collectives of foods that we have in downtown. Because like downtown has so many pizzerias, but why not showcase them all at the same time in a plaza? That's what we did with the coffee fest. It's like all the coffee shops were called in, and like, let's pop you all open in this big plaza at the same time so everybody can have a taste of the different coffees that are in downtown. And so we're planning on doing that at that level, with different themes. And so that was evolving, and it's already growing on its own.
Does something have to like tick the box of being one of the 8 themes to be included? Like, are you that?
I'm not that nuts about it. Well, this is you got to be a little flexible because we heard these dreams from the outside. They came into town, right? It's like the outside speaking into the internal core. But then when we're doing the internal programming, there's 2 prongs or 3 prongs actually. There's us as the staff that works it, doing our own point of view of like this worked, this didn't work, etc. Then we ask our vendors who are also community members, and then we randomly ask people that have RSVP'd to give us feedback as well. And then those 3 voices get analyzed, and I can compare, like, can I enhance this program, evolve it, or take it away? And that gets combined with if there's a missing, let's say like if there's a missing thing within the map of our downtown, then we look at the list of dreams and then see how do all these things work. So it's a little complicated, but it really is like having a menu to choose from and test different out.
I think that the key is that you really need to build that base. If you don't have that base, then you can't pull from it, right? So now you have these beautiful themes that you can kind of look at and be like, is this program multi-generational? Does this help, someone dance in public more? And like, and so, and it must be so delightful to be able to like tick off dreams as a part, like 2,000 dreams. Like it gives you so much to do over the next, decade if you wanted to. But you have to build that base of stories. You have to build that story layer, I think is the really core thing there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny you're calling a story layer. I've always called it this is the human layer of urban design or urban planning.
Mm.
We plan for everything but human habits or human, interaction. And that's like the top thing that we have to think about, because that's when you have a very strong community in terms of connection, you become very resilient no matter what's coming at you, be it financial resiliency or environmental resiliency. All of those get ticked by putting all this energy into the human layer. So,
You know, out of that human layer, for those who might be listening in West Palm Beach and who might be very curious to you, what were those top, 10 things? I know that you've touched on intergenerational, you've touched on environmental. Can you quickly fill that list in for us so that we know what you're, as you're talking about, like, this is the reference points. What are those reference points?
yeah, I can't remember all 10 like verbatim,
I'm putting you on the
but
spot, I know.
but I do know, yeah, multi-generational is a big one. Environment was huge, which was so surprising. It was the number one, actually, because we're right next to the water and it's very, very like real. It's like when the water comes in. Um,
Yeah.
and there was definitely schooling and concerns about better education. There was a lot about play. Elders and children being included was a thing. So I mean, I guess that's a multi-generational, and the to celebrate culture was big. So there are many things that I want to say. Um, in the end, what these themes gave us was a point of view of what's needed to enhance what the community identity is or wants to be, right? So, like through their dreams, they told us who they are, or who they want to be. So both things, because dreams were sometimes said like, we want this because this is, what makes us be us, versus other dreams were like, we don't have this, so we want it. And so those are the two answers that really stem down through those 10 items. And what's very interesting is that, you know, I think this is a model that can work anywhere in terms of collecting your identity through something that's
Mhm.
whimsical, and then using those markers to help, strategize how do you celebrate your own place by being you. Like,
Yeah.
I
And I
think
would love
that
to.
that's a call to action to other cities, is that Cheryl is willing, this is what I'm hearing, Cheryl is willing to take this to your city, everybody. So if you are wanting to do a Trojan Horse project in your city, Cheryl's your woman. You should reach out, and because I know that you've applied for the next stage of funding to like build the dream machine and take the dream machine around the different communities, and as you say, build on those pieces. But if anyone's looking to start this,
We got a gal who knows what to do. Um, yeah, we do. I'd also just say that, like, I want to dig in more to how you're doing. You've mentioned the words equity, you've mentioned the words inclusion, you've mentioned some words that are becoming less and less able for us to use. So I think we are going to need to invite you back and have a deeper dive into, like, we're going to pull these layers of this onion back. I want to see what's in the very middle. It seems fascinating, and I have loved, moving into this space. And I wanted to thank you as we kind of move to close this out, for being as vulnerable and open and telling us about your process in this project, because this is the core of what I hope when you come back, we'll be able to talk so much more about what you're doing with it now. So without further ado, though, I want to ask one more question for, actually, without further ado, Emily, do you want to help us close out this time with Sherryl today?
I sure do. So as Tim said, I'm excited to have Sherryl back. This, Trojan Horse was the focus of this one, but there are so many other things that we get to learn from Sherryl. It's going to be amazing. So come back for part 2 next week. You'll won't regret it. So Sherryl, thank you so much for coming and being so generous with your time and your knowledge. It's just been a delight having you, and we can't wait to chat to you in the next episode.
thanks, Emily. Thanks, Tim. Pleasure.
Been fun.
So much. So good.
So
Mhm.
good. I love that. I mean, you guys could tell the Trojan horse concept has stolen our hearts. It is joyful, it is inclusive, and most importantly, it actually builds consensus. Not
Which
just
people
equals.
say is impossible. And it's not impossible. It just needs to be done well and properly and
Mhm.
slowly and intentionally.
Mhm. Mhm.
hmm
And I think we've seen so many like visioning processes that have like died on the vine because they don't build that momentum, right?
Mm.
And what Cheryl's building is a feedback loop that keeps people engaged because she tells people she does the storytelling constantly. She tells people that everything they do relates back to the dreams they gave them. Constantly. We referred to the dreams and we've chosen this. We referred to the dreams and we've chosen this. We referred to the dreams and we've chosen this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think too that she told the story with those horses
Mhm.
that not only directly connected to like I won't forget Esperanza, right? As a horse and being like the idea that you're connecting hope to the communities that hope both needs and came from. It created a story that everyone else could tell stories about as well. How many people in those communities have photos of those horses on their phones so that when Cheryl makes the announcement, hey, this came from your horses,
Mhm.
that they can be telling their grandma about it and pull up a photo of the horse to make the content hyper local and relevant. Like that is, to me, it's the way in which the story was told that
Mhm.
built that consensus to build that consensus. And it's the numerous touch points back with the same groups of
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
Is I
It
think
was
brilliant.
actually a tactical, like a brilliant tactical move, framing this around furniture. Like, who's going to say no to furniture? It let the project like sidestep politics of because placemaking becomes like for some reason becomes very political, and
Mm,
but when you're like, oh no, this is just furniture, it becomes like invisible infrastructure to the political side of things, but is very visible to the community, which I love.
well, I think yes, absolutely, and I think there's a clear connection to like what we saw with our guests in Baltimore, where it's that glass roots, often fragile, but also grassroots partnerships, where they're like really building on those common goals, right? And so, like, if there's a barrier, how is the community addressing that barrier? And you can just sit and stare at it, which I think is what stops a lot of placemakers. Or you can figure your ways around it. So, skirting around it, like they did with furniture, um, finding those common goals that lead to the like effectively envisioning what that community wants, right? All of that is done because they are being grassroots in the effort, but then bringing in the structural strategy that the city needs to translate it. And I think that is that there's a value there
Yeah, I
that
think a lot of
Cheryl
people
really
take
highlights.
grassroots. I think a lot of people takes grassroots to mean like without large organizations, right? And
Mm,
I don't think that's the case, right? I think that grassroots is like by the community for the community, and the downtown partnership, the DDA really sees itself as part of the community for the community, and her approach takes engagement, which is what a lot of people talk about, engagement on social media, engagement of people in public space, engagement. She turns it into ownership because it's not enough for people to engage. They need to feel like they have ownership over it. So the community is not just participating, they are helping to alter the future of their city. And I think that that's why Trojan Horse seems really super simple, but why it has been long.
mm. Indeed. Well, and it almost makes you go back to a world that was 20 years ago,
Mm.
right? What does engagement look like without everybody having access to the ether at all times in their pocket? And that kind of human engagement that we had as a species for thousands of years, like it's retapping back into that, and it's now novel
Mhm.
because it's not like an app that got thrown together. It's not like a Google form that someone's filling out. It's not a pin on Google Maps that you're following. It is like in person, and your comments go on pieces of paper where you're responding to other people, not where you're looking at what the constraints are that have socially been provided to you, but just
writing on a piece of paper and dropping it in a box. And that box happens to have wheels and look kind of like a horse. And that's pretty cool. Right. And then your comment is then valued equitably with everybody else's versus in the Reddit stream of opinions. They're able to kind of jump past that and be very nimble in their approach. I think in cities that have more of that red tape, replicating a comment box with wheels might require a bit more collaboration, but the blueprint that I think Cheryl highlights for us here of just being creative in resistance and building that low tech engagement mechanism, and then she balances that with all that high tech AI tool to take that raw data and turn it into something actionable that she reports back to people, that she closes that collaboration loop with. And I think that's really cool.
But I think that one of the things that is key when you are in a city that has more red tape is that generally giving credit and glory to other people is the way that it gets done.
Like she did with the ballerinas.
Well, you guys will come up to get the ballerinas next week. It is a beautiful story. You are going to love it. But I'm thinking in particular for the Trojan Horse, when all of these horses made their way to Town Hall. Town Hall was where their routes ended, and they personally delivered the dreams to the mayor. It was not the mayor's idea to do the Trojan Horse, but the mayor got all the glory and the photo opportunities of having the city's dreams delivered to him.
Right.
That's how you get around red tape.
Give credit.
Give
the glory.
Yeah. Because Cheryl doesn't need the glory. She needs the data. And she needs the buy-in. And she needs the ownership. So she'll give everybody all the glory they want if it means that they'll let her continue to do these things. And I think that when we put our ego aside, we can make some grand things happen in those sorts of cities.
Well, and I think it's possible for Cheryl and her team because of the mental angle they come at it with, or their mantra, the phrase that they say to themselves, that like, it looks like joy, but it's a Trojan horse for transformation. Like that mantra of like, hey, yes, like it is to the essence of the story of a Trojan horse. That's what it is for the city, right? It is sneaking in and it is capturing all of that community.
Dreams.
Co-authorization, really. Yeah, dreams for sure. Like it's capturing the dreams, but it's inviting into this co-authored structure without people knowing that they're co-authoring, right? They were just participating. They were just answering the question, what is your dream for the city?
Yeah, then this wasn't a consultation, right? It was like a collaboration that's has stuck because it was a very simple concept to understand. Here are my dreams, make them a reality.
Right. And kind of going back to those dreams from the bottom up, right? That are then being supported by the system, and it's through Cheryl's creativeness of giving other people glory and prestige that allowed her to kind of hack the system and have it be system supported. Because now she has all this data from these horses that drive all of their decisions, and she can consistently point back to designing things for the community that the community wanted.
Yeah, the core that Trojan Horse does masterfully is that this if cities want to generate ideas that residents will actually champion,
correct?
They need a process that invites feedback without overwhelming people. And like the fact of the matter is that a survey form these days like overwhelms people. They're like, I don't have 10 minutes to do this form. But like when you bring wonder into that mix and you find that you spent 20 minutes writing a dream for a giant metal horse that's rolled past your storefront, right? Like
that looks like something that came out of like Flubber's factory, like or a Floop from Spy Kid. That's what I was thinking. Remember those like cutouts of mom and dad? They got scanned and then they got put into real life.
Yeah, it doesn't overwhelm people. It makes them excited.
Right.
What's exciting about filling out a form? Nothing. Postcards. this retro novelty that you're talking about, right? That
Mm-hmm.
captures it. It's performance art is what it is.
Yeah, well, and it's that is so rare because it's performance art as policymaking,
Mhm.
right? Like you don't get we do see performances as policymaking all the time. Every speech that I ever hear is a performance, but it's not art, right?
Mhm.
It is. Hey, how are we like getting people to get involved in the process of this, right?
Mhm.
Instead of, oh, what are the plans? Are we going to finalize them? Great, here's the plan. We put the rubber stamp on it through government. People, here's your new activity, right? It
Mhm.
is, no, kids, give us your horse. Draw us a horse. Okay, great. Here are our favorite horses. We're going to choose one of each of these communities that are representative, and we're going to go. And they're going to look however they look, and we're inviting everybody into that process. I think that is, but bringing in experts to actually make them as real to life as possible to the art that the children provided, right? So they were
Yeah.
real horses. They weren't cardboard cutouts with a box on them.
Yeah, and I think if I'm being honest with myself, the reason why the Trojan Horse Project like really speaks to my heart is because like it relates to the work that we do with Story City, right? Like you are wanting to test ideas quickly, build trust, and co-create experiences at scale, right? And so the way that you do that at scale is by being playful with like participatory infrastructure, right? And so like we do that with digital overlays where we have a playful choose your own adventure, an outdoor escape room. You've stepped into the shoes of a pirate and you're going to the Fountain of Youth like we did in Atlanta, right? As part of the Parks and Recreation project that we did with them. And like it seems silly from the outside, but it is that playfulness that invites people to participate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it allows you to build trust quickly and then to iterate on ideas and just add additional layers.
You know,
And they
it all
add additional layers with every dream that they make happen.
they do, and they fill in that mosaic. I think a lot more of the city, and my opinions of West Palm Beach have changed because of the work that I've seen them do versus the branding that I get out here in California of Florida. You know, it is a great, I think, a balance to that narrative. But it all, to me, calls back to Kansas City in season 1. You know, they bringing people together. The leaving behind in this scenario, unlike, I'm going to restart that all. I don't understand this point. Can you help me with this point?
So in Kansas City, events brought people together, but it didn't leave something behind. And so what Sherryl has done here is it's left something behind.
Got you. Hearing you
Yeah.
say it makes it make more sense. My dyslexia is not having it. Okay. And so like what all this reminds me of really is kind of like going back to season 1 with Kansas City, where, you know, they were able to bring people together, but they didn't really leave anything behind. There wasn't like I'm going to walk through this park and remember the thing that happened here. Cheryl's really done and not only leave something behind, but it's like a bench, right? It like a park bench with someone's name on it that carries and stores that memory. She's created, and we'll get in more into this next week, consistent activations that have come out of this Trojan Horse experience that have left a myriad of crumbs behind of all of these different experiences that people can have, from walking out in their neighborhood street to put something in a house that's an experience they're having in their neighborhood, and they'll remember that funny time the horse came down their street, all the way to the experiences they have with the government, with those notes being dropped off, to seeing their dreams implemented as a silent disco, right? Like every step along that path becomes more breadcrumbs that just fill the city of West Palm Beach and make people feel like it is a place to be out and active. And it really is activating that third space, is the way that we see and we want placemaking to do.
Yeah, and they're building that infrastructure that is joyful and narrative, and as a result is really sneakily powerful.
Indeed.
Right? Exactly. So next week we are in West Palm Beach again, because we could not just leave with only one episode with Sherryl. We needed to download as much of her knowledge as possible. So we take the Trojan Horse further. We explore how the DDA is embedding equity and system change and creative leadership into every part of their downtown experience. And they're doing it on these like shoestring budgets that make things incredibly impactful. It's bonkers to me.
I'm so excited for next week. You guys have to tune in.
Beautiful. Well, until then, have a wonderful adventure. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.
The Vibrant Spaces podcast is produced by Story City. You can find our entire archive on any podcasting app and on about.storycity.app, where we publish transcripts and show notes. This episode was produced by Tim Souza, and our staff includes Justin Kahn, Brett Ludwig, and Victoria Umitska. Our theme song was Happy Indie by Alex Guz. Our co-hosts are Tim Souza and me, Emily Craven. As always, thank you for listening. We hope you have a glorious adventure this week.